Course 3, Lesson 8 is all about perimeter and area, specifically looking at complex figures to find the perimeter and area. So just to remind ourselves of some important vocabulary terms in this lesson, area is talking about the inside of a figure, whereas perimeter is talking about the distance around the outside. Kind of like area is if you wanted to paint a wall all the way around, or all over, whereas perimeter is maybe you put a border all the way around the wall. Our area formula is going to be length times width, and then our perimeter formula, we're just talking about 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So let's look at a simple example. If we were to look at this figure, we can see that, let's start with the perimeter, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as far as our length, okay? And since this is a rectangle, it's going to be just the same on the bottom here. And on the side we have 2. So if we were to add those up, we would see that for my perimeter, I'm going to be doing 2 of the 5s plus 2 of the 2s. That means that our perimeter is going to be 14 units. Now let's look at the area. There's a couple ways to think about this. One is you could count up all of the squares inside, or you could just multiply 2 times 5, length times width. So our area is going to be 5 times 2, which is 10 units squared. Okay, pretty simple example. Let's try another one. Let's say we have these here. Well, for the perimeter, we are going to take 6 and 2 and say, well, I have the same on all of the sides. So I would be adding up 6 plus 2 plus 2, which means that we get 16 meters. The area is just 6 times 2, since that's our length times width. So we get 12 meters squared. And then we have our pink square. And it is a square, so that means all of the side lengths are the same. So we just need to do 11 times 4, since there are 4 sides that are exactly the same of 11, so we get 44 meters. The area, we would multiply 11 times 11 and get that the area of this square is 121 meters squared. You'll notice that we have 2 different units. Perimeter is always going to be just length, so that's just going to be in simple meters, inches, feet, units. Whereas the area, since we're talking about space, we are talking about units squared, so meters squared, inches squared, and so on. Let's look at a more complex figure. Okay, let's try this one here. First of all, we notice that we have some sides that are missing, and we need to figure out what are the length of those sides. Well, if we look here, we can see that if we need to find this one, well, it's going to be the same as this one up here. So we have 2 feet. These ones on the side are going to be a little bit harder to figure out, but let's do it. So we see that this entire length here is 7 feet, and 2 of them are used up right there. So we have left over some space here and here. So we would say, all right, 7 minus 2 is 5. Okay, and we can see that it doesn't actually matter what goes there. So we're going to split it up evenly and say, well, we have 2.5 here and 2.5 feet here. Okay, so our perimeter is going to be adding up all of those. So we're going to be adding up 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 2.5 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 all the way around there, and then we have another 2.5. Okay, and we've gone all the way around the figure. So let's add those up. All right, 5 and 7 is 12, plus 5 is 17. Let's add these two together. 17 plus 5 is 22. and then plus 6 is 28 feet. Okay, now let's look at the area. A little bit more confusing, but definitely possible. I'm going to split this up into two different shapes. Two rectangles that help me out. Okay, well, if we look, this big rectangle is just 5 times 7, it's 35 feet squared. And this little part is 2 by 2, which is 4 feet squared. So we see if we add it together, we get 35 plus 4, which is 39 feet squared. Really, that's the trick with any complex figure, is being able to split it up into shapes that you actually know. Whether that's a box and a rectangle, whether it's a rectangle and a triangle, just split it up into objects that you do know how to solve. And then it makes it a whole lot easier from there. Well, I hope this was helpful for homework and for studying.